Hospitals are supposed to save lives. But what if some never really leave? I used to think those late-night stories about haunted wards were just tired nurses talking nonsense. Until I worked the night shift myself. There's something about a hospital after midnight. The hum of machines, the flicker of lights, the silence between heartbeats. The night I heard footsteps echoing from a room that had been empty for years. I realized some patients don't check out the way we think they do. And ever since that shift, I can't look at a nurse's cap without remembering her face. And the truly terrifying question, what if the person watching over you isn't alive anymore? Tonight, we're diving into true haunted hospital horror stories that actually happened. So stick close and keep watching till the end to find out what happened, before it was too late. But before we start, make sure to subscribe or follow so you never miss any new chilling releases. If you're enjoying the content, hit like, drop a comment, and share this video. Let's see how many of you truly love this kind of episodes. Now here's your challenge. One of the stories you're about to hear might not be real. It could be completely made up, or maybe all of them are true. Watch till the end, try to spot the fake, and leave your guess in the comments. And as for last episode's fake story, it was story number 3. Thank you for being part of this journey with me. And now, let's dive into the darkness together. I used to work night shifts as a security guard at an old city hospital that was half shut down. The newer wing was still active, bright, clean, full of noise, but the east building had been abandoned for over a decade. They kept it sealed because it didn't meet modern safety codes, though rumor was it was cheaper to lock it than to demolish it. My job was to patrol both sides. The working hospital had motion sensors and staff everywhere. The east wing, though, that place was different. The air always smelled faintly of antiseptic and something else, something metallic. The hallways were lined with peeling paint and signs that had faded to ghosts of letters. The nurses used to joke that the East Wing was haunted by Nurse Helen. Supposedly, she'd been a head nurse there back in the late 70s. The story went that she worked herself to exhaustion during a flu outbreak and died on shift, heart attack. Some said she never left her floor. Others said the "Don't Enter" sign outside the wing wasn't meant for safety. It was a warning. I didn't believe any of it. It was about 3 in the morning when it started. The night was slow, the rain relentless, wind pressing against the windows like it was trying to get in. The main monitors were quiet, so I decided to do an early patrol of the East Wing, just to keep busy. When I unlocked the double doors, a wave of damp, stale air hit me. The flashlight beam cut through the dust, showing floating particles like tiny silver insects. My boots echoed as I walked through the main corridor. The emergency lights flickered, casting everything in a sickly orange glow. Halfway down the hall, I heard something faint, like metal wheels turning on tile. I froze. It sounded like a gurney being rolled, but that was impossible. The place was empty. I waited, holding my breath, and then I saw it. At the far end of the hallway, a soft, intermittent flicker of light. It looked like someone moving with a flashlight, or maybe the reflection of mine, but I was alone. "Maintenance?" I called. My voice came out too loud in the silence. No answer. I started walking slowly. The gurney sound stopped, then started again, closer this time. When I turned the corner, my flashlight landed on a set of doors marked Intensive Care Unit, Restricted Access. The sign hanging crookedly below it read in faded paint, "Don't Enter." It struck me that I'd never actually noticed that patch before. I tried the handle. It moved, but only slightly, like something heavy was behind it. Then I saw something small in the light. A white nurse's cap lying on the floor. It looked clean, almost new, except for a red circle stitched on the front. The same words, "Don't Enter." Something about that detail unsettled me. It wasn't a printed sign. It was sewn on carefully, like a personal message. That's when I heard the whisper. It wasn't a voice exactly. More like the sound of air escaping a vent, forming a word. "Stop." I spun around. but there was no one. Just the dark hallway and the reflection of my own flashlight in a cracked window. Then, I saw her. Standing about 20 feet down the corridor, half in shadow. A woman in an old-style nurse's uniform, the fabric gray and torn in places. Her head was slightly tilted, her cap perfectly centered on her hair. Her skin looked too smooth, too pale, almost waxy. And her eyes, they glowed faintly, catching the light like a cat's. I thought it was a mannequin at first, someone playing a cruel prank. But then she smiled. That grin. It stretched too wide, teeth too white, too sharp, but somehow human. The light from my flashlight dimmed like the batteries were dying, even though I'd changed them earlier. "Ma'am," I managed to say, "you're not supposed to be here." She didn't move. She just lifted her hand slowly and pointed at the ICU door. Something in me told me not to look, but I did. For a split second, the "Don't Enter" sign looked fresh, letters painted in wet crimson instead of faded red. A faint dripping sound echoed. When I looked back, the hallway was empty. The nurse was gone. I ran the rest of the patrol, heart pounding, every shadow looking like it could move. When I reached the security office, I checked the surveillance feed. But the East Wing cameras had been dead for years. Static I didn't tell anyone until my last week there. The new hire laughed it off, said I must have fallen asleep and dreamed it. But a few nights later, he called in sick. When he came back, he told me he heard a woman's voice whispering from behind the ICU doors, calling his name. He quit a week later. I still don't know what I saw. Maybe my mind was playing tricks in the dark. But every time I drive past that building, I swear I see a faint orange glow through the broken windows. And sometimes, if you look closely, you can see a shape standing there. A nurse in white, smiling, waiting for someone who doesn't listen to the sign. I've been a night nurse for 17 years, and I've seen my share of strange things. Patients talking to people who aren't there, lights flickering for no reason, alarms going off in empty rooms. You get used to it. You tell yourself it's fatigue or faulty wiring. But what happened in Ward 6? No one talks about that anymore. Not even the ones who swore they didn't believe in ghosts. Ward 6 was shut down 3 years ago. Officially, they said it was because of budget cuts. Unofficially, we all knew it started the night Mr. Avery died. He wasn't supposed to die. He was set to be discharged in the morning, vitals steady, labs clear. But at 3:15 a.m., the heart monitor flatlined. We rushed in. His eyes were open, staring at the ceiling, mouth frozen mid-scream. The monitor showed no pulse, but his body, it was still warm. Too warm, like something inside hadn't left yet. The doctors called it cardiac arrest. We signed the paperwork, moved on. But Ward 6 didn't. It started with little things. A call light flickering in an empty room, that faint metallic smell that hung around too long, like old blood under bleach. Patients started whispering about the man by the window. The problem was, their blinds were shut, and their rooms faced a brick wall. A security guard quit after reviewing footage from the corridor. He refused to explain, just said, "It's the eyes," and left without collecting his final paycheck. And then, a few nights later, the intercom turned on by itself. It was 2:37 a.m. I remember because I was at the nurse's station, finishing paperwork. The intercom crackled, soft static filling the silence. Then a voice came through. "Claire." It said my name. I froze, pen slipping from my hand. My coworker Teresa had her earbuds in, scrolling through her phone. The voice came again, more insistent. "Claire, you let me die." The sound was barely a whisper, but it hit me like a punch. My chest tightened. I walked to the panel and pressed the response button. "This is Claire." "Who's on the line?" Nothing, just silence. I turned to Teresa. "Did you hear that?" She pulled out one earbud. "Hear what?" Before I could answer, the intercom hissed again. Not words this time, but a slow, wet breathing sound. Someone gasping for air. I slammed the switch off. The noise didn't stop. It was coming from the hallway. The doors to Ward 6 had been sealed since the shutdown, but through the frosted glass, I saw movement. A shape stretching unnaturally tall, shifting like it was trying to form into something human. My whole body locked up. Then the shadow turned, and for half a second, I saw eyes. Not glowing, just alive. A man's eyes, staring right at me through the glass. That was the night I checked the security feed. I should have never done that. At exactly 3:15 a.m., the monitors for Ward 6 flickered. Static rolled across the screen before stabilizing. The camera in room 612, Mr. Avery's room, came into focus. The bed that had been stripped and empty since his death wasn't empty anymore. The sheets shifted, slow and deliberate, like someone beneath them was breathing. Then, the figure sat up. It was shaped like a man but hunched, twitching as if the body didn't remember how to move. The head tilted at odd angles, like it was trying to listen through the camera. I could make out the faint outline of a mouth. Then, a grin. Stretched too wide, too wrong to be human. The heart monitor beside the bed blinked to life. 72 beats per minute. A perfect pulse. But there was no one there. Then the thing turned toward the camera and smiled. I yanked the power cord from the wall, nearly tripping over my chair. Teresa rushed in, asking what happened. When I looked back at the screen, the bed was empty. I filed my transfer request the next morning. The administration shut down Ward 6 within a week. But I still work in the same hospital. And sometimes, when the night is too quiet and the hall's too empty, I hear it again. The intercom crackling, soft static whispering just below the hum of the lights. Claire. Sometimes it says my name, sometimes it just breathes. And once, just once, I looked down that dark hallway and saw something standing at the end. It wasn't a man. It wasn't even moving. But the way it tilted its head, the way its mouth twitched, I knew it was watching. We don't talk about Ward 6 anymore. Not because we've forgotten, but because it's still listening. My dad is wrapping up his final days of treatment at a state hospital, so I decided to visit him for Father's Day. He's been at a facility in Jamestown, North Dakota for several months. The building itself has a rich history, which made my visit all the more intriguing. During our time together, we began discussing some eerie experiences he had encountered there. He recounted a few odd stories about the sights and sounds he'd encountered during his stay. The hospital opened its doors in 1885, initially designed to support individuals with mental health issues and those who had committed crimes. Although it aimed to provide care, it quickly became overcrowded, prompting multiple expansions to accommodate the growing number of patients. Unfortunately, even with the expansions, the hospital struggled to staff adequately for the needs of its patients. By 1937, the situation had become critical. The governor made the controversial decision to dismiss the hospital superintendent, along with 75% of the staff, replacing them with new hires who were more politically connected than qualified. As a result, patient care suffered, leading to reports of neglect and poor treatment. In 1949, newspapers began to highlight these issues, including alarming accounts of malnutrition among patients. Reform efforts began in 1953, when hospital officials acknowledged the dire need for change. New policies were implemented to ensure better care and to hire qualified personnel, which gradually improved conditions for patients. By 1974, the patient count had decreased significantly, from over 2,000 in the 1940s to around 600, and today, there are about 200 patients remaining. My dad has kept himself busy during his stay by taking on various jobs, from assisting with patient activities to volunteering for different programs. The hospital is somewhat associated with his rehab center, but he enjoys more freedom than the residents. Recently, he helped a staff member with laundry in a section of the hospital that resembles a prison. After folding numerous sheets and towels, they stepped away briefly, only to return and find the linens tossed haphazardly on the floor. It was puzzling since that area is securely locked. making it impossible for anyone to have entered and caused the mess. The staff member mentioned that this was the work of a ghost named Charlie, who is said to haunt that section of the facility. She described how they had names for several ghosts due to their abundance, and even had to close off certain rooms because previous residents or inmates refused to stay there due to unsettling occurrences. The old warden's office was particularly infamous. He warned that if the staff couldn't relocate his belongings, he would resign. My dad shared that strange happenings were not uncommon. Objects reportedly moved on their own, and items sometimes flew off shelves, causing quite a stir among the staff. Because he had the freedom to leave, my dad and some friends took on a local lawn care job, maintaining the grounds around the hospital and the nearby cemetery. One afternoon, while working near an abandoned building, he and another worker spotted a figure moving inside, prompting them to alert their boss. The sighting was odd, given the building had been empty for years, but their boss dismissed it as mere imagination. Despite his usual no-nonsense demeanor, my dad was taken aback when the figure reappeared, darting down the hallway and around a corner. The figure was dressed in an old-fashioned black and white suit and hat, trying to conceal his face. Terrified, the other worker ran off, but my dad called out for him to chase after the supposed prankster. When they checked the area, however, they found no one, just a thick layer of dust that revealed their own footprints, with no sign of the mysterious man. Years ago, when I was around 14, I often explored my parents' property, which had over 100 acres of land filled with old farm tools and dilapidated buildings. One day, while wandering through a path lined with bushes, a golden retriever suddenly burst out in front of me. We didn't own a dog, and the nearest neighbors lived miles away. The dog barked at me before freezing in place, its demeanor tense and alert. Moments later, a young man, probably around 19 or 20, emerged from the bushes and seemed just as startled. He shouted at me, asking what I was doing there, and then began to chase me. I sprinted back to my house, the sound of his voice echoing behind me. His voice felt oddly familiar, adding to my fear. Eventually, I reached home, and my stepfather went out to search but found nothing. I ended up getting grounded, as my parents didn't believe my story, thinking it was another wild tale from their rebellious child. Recently, however, things took an even stranger turn. About 5 weeks ago, I visited my parents with my girlfriend and her golden retriever, Bentley. After a pleasant afternoon with my family, I took Bentley outside. Suddenly, he dashed into the woods without warning. I chased after him and soon heard him barking. I found him no more than 15 feet away from a child playing in the woods. I called out to the boy, but he bolted away, disappearing into the underbrush. It struck me that he was wearing the exact same clothes I had at that age. I told my girlfriend about the encounter, but she found it hard to believe. Even so, it felt real, and I still can't explain what happened. If you've made it to the end of this video, let me know in the comments which story creeped you out the most, and if you could survive only one of them, which one would it be? Don't forget to drop your guess. Which story do you think was the fake one? Also, if you enjoyed the episode, hit super thanks if you're on YouTube, or send us some stars if you're on Facebook to show some love and make your comments stand out. Want to go next level? Get early access to upcoming episodes, exclusive members-only content, and much more by joining our YouTube membership or becoming a Patreon supporter. Trust me, you don't want to miss what's waiting there for you. Don't forget to like, share, and catch up on our previous episodes. And now, stay tuned for the next horror episode.